生足侪代志的，毋过看起来小可危险啊。阮细汉，阮全家就移民去纽西兰，晓在足侪优美啊，大家拢知影。伫遐读高中，高中读煞读高中的时阵，参加 International Math Olympiad 代表纽西兰。迄阵去台湾比赛，迄阵比赛的时阵，我就甲台湾队的代表甲因having a chat like making friends。因讲我讲奇怪，你的牌哪写 Chinese Taipei， 我就感觉讲哪毋是写台湾，所以我迄阵我就开始想讲即个台湾的议题。阮爸爸妈妈嘛拢足鼓励阮参加为台湾的代志。所以为细汉就开始训练。后来阮搬去我 medical school 的时阵，去 Australia 晓遮侪一寡有诶上诚趣味的。我伫遐训练做到residency 刷以后，就来去美国做 fellowship 的训练。即摆留伫University of Cincinnati 的 faculty。其他拢免 repeat 的。大家讲 radiologist 到底是创啥？我想讲遮侪在座一定足侪囡仔是faculty member 是医生，毋过to a normal person, radiologist 小可有一寡 mystery。伊讲 ，Do you take X-rays? Do you do ultrasound? 我讲无，我的 job 是看图说故事。So I look at pictures and turn them into words, turn them into useful reports， 互别个医生会使来决定讲伊病人是咧诊断是要安怎处理。阮会使讲，即个 test 无够，阮需要较侪 test 才会使知影。即个看起来异常的部分到底是什么 ？So that's what my job is. My job is to make a diagnosis. This is a staged photo in my office. 阮嘛做 procedure， 所以即个是一个囡仔，阮做叫做 lumbar puncture 脊椎穿刺的 procedure， 阮嘛做一寡 spine 的 injection。我家己无做，毋过我的同事有做，所以我伫遮来分享一寡 back pain 的treatment。我的 job 另外一个 role 就是 teach resident, fellow 甲 medical students。我旧年有 receive best teaching award。one of my proud achievements。我有闲的时阵，袂使安尼讲，会参加台湾的一寡的社团的活动。因为我感觉这是 my way of giving back to the community。Dina introduced me as Taiwanese Australian， 因为我搁毋是美国人 ，so I can't call myself an American yet. It's like some examples of my talks. 阮遐有一个足出名对台湾足好的 Congressman Steve Chabot， 但伊讲感谢伊对台湾遐尼好对台湾的贡献。我无聊的时阵我就爱 bake。Some of the stuff I baked from scratch. Okay, so 在座像曾经有 back pain， 唔管遐尼少，安尼我免讲。其实大家人坐一世人遐久的时阵拢会有 back pain。这都有一寡怪怪，不过 OK 看有啦。无管你啥物年岁，其实少年人嘛拢有可能有 back pain. It's so common. Okay, so doctor's visit is very common to have problems with back pain. So 嘛是真头痛，这是要安怎来处理呢？所以咱的脊椎分做基本上是大部分拢看三个所在啊 ，cervical spine, thoracic spine, lumbar spine, sacrum 较无，唔使讲较无重要，较无遐侪 problem 啊。上侪 problem 的是顶头迄个 cervical spine 甲迄个后壁的 lumbar spine， 这两个所在是上可能有问题的所在。咱一个 vertebral body 看起来是安尼，就是一节一节的脊椎嘛。这全部倒起来就是你的整个 spine。无共款的所在会出无共款的问题，就会有无共款的症状。所以呢，最 common 的就是两个脊椎中间有一个迄个软带 cartilage 叫做 disc。这个 disc 呢，常常拢有问题。为细汉其实为20岁开始就开始愈来愈细地，愈细地伊就会有出无共款的状况。So 两个中间有神经为中出来。这个 nerve 呢出来的所在足 small 的，所以呢，你若看这个 disc 那变细，这个洞，这个神经要出来这个洞，就会变做就 narrow 的。在 narrow 的时阵呢，就会压到你这个神经，啊，这有时候就会引起很痛的症状。啊，不过有的人即使那个很 narrow 也不会痛，所以呢，不一定说是 narrow 一定会痛，也不一定说痛就是会有 narrow spinal canal。这是一个很 interesting 的 concept， 说这 to grasp。不过我先 put it out there for you to think about。无共款的 back pain， 一种的是 acute， 我昨好好我今仔起来突然剧痛，这种的叫做 acute back pain， 这种的较 serious。我今仔要较讲的是讲慢性，哦，这有啊疼，今仔想咧讲对不对？有一点痛啊，这就烦的，几啊礼拜、几啊个月拢一直在疼。这种的呢，我想要 focus on 这种慢性的back pain。acute back pain 呢是较 serious， 可能就爱去找你的医生。chronic back pain management 较无共款。什么是 risk factor？ 什么 what sort of people are more likely to get back pain? Well, unfortunately, when you get older, you will more likely to get back pain. 较肥的人嘛会 get back pain. So, yeah, 就是你我爱减肥。那讲你的 parents 可能以前有去受 back pain。Unfortunately， 因为你无选你的 parents， 所以呢，你可能嘛有 back pain. So genetics plays an important role. We don't quite fully understand it yet, but it's an important factor. 有的人的 job 吼爱举重，还是要拿物件、摕物件，迄种人 also more high risk factor. 像讲工人啊，还是常常要喜欢搬重物的人。osteoporosis 骨骼疏松症嘛是一个 risk factor。smoking 嘛是 important 的。伊讲足奇怪，是安怎 depression 会 cause back pain？ 其实足侪我无法度 understand 的，你的 mind 甲你的 body 其实都 connected。So 今仔心情较无好，所以我的背较痛。This is true. This really happens. So your mind will also make a difference. Okay. So we covered these risk factors. 什么 symptoms？ 有一种疼是叫做 muscle ache， 这种疼 is a little like muscle can go into spasm 的时阵 can cause 真疼。有一种疼是 shooting， 刚刚讲start in the back， 是要到我的脚趾头或到脚里头，叫做 shooting pain。stabbing pain 就是讲刚刚有人捅了你一刀那样种 pain。无共款的 pain， 有一寡是讲你坐咧会使，徛起来都袂使。有的人是讲倒咧无要紧起来，有问题。所以无共款的症状，你若去看医生，你就爱甲伊 describe 足 detail， 因为伊安尼才有法度知影是毋是脚的其中的一个状况。太多 cause， 所以我无法度甲恁大家拢教遐详细。我含 medical student 一点钟就教无。差侪 ，so mechanical back pain 是上 common 的，常常是因为 muscle 去扭着，还是韧带去扭着，因为 spine 吼，伊安尼一节，伊还有足侪 ligament， 才有法度 hold together， 甲 muscle 嘛可能包起来，无吼一下就散掉啊，所以要用这些东西把它全部把它 stabilize。脚的物件可能有时候会拉伤或者是受伤。Treatment for simple back pain， 大家拢知影嘛，上开始一定是讲 try taking simple analgesia， 像讲 Tylenol， 还是 ibuprofen， 照的just next step 可能就会 try steroid， 还是讲够 strong 的可能就爱用 opiate， 甲 muscle relaxant。人有讲我即摆背痛，我是爱继续运动，还是我倒咧床上拢不要动较好呢？其实呢 ，study show 说你若有法度起来运动，还是比你倒咧遐休困搁较好。But it's best to get your pain under control and try to get moving. So that is the best. That they studied that is the best management. So 伊的 muscle 吼，因为你若久无用吼，伊会 become weak， 伊就会讲有时候会更抽搐，安尼愈疼，所以袂使 lazy。So stretching 甲 exercise 呢，足重要的，因为吼你要继续安尼move， 你就较袂后盖有问题。另外一种的 simple treatment 是讲放 compress， 会使是 cold compress， 还是 hot compress。一般人 来讲是 whatever you're comfortable with. Generally, with the cold compress, 你若讲 acutely， 有的人讲哦，迄边边吼可以做到什么样的状况，再讲 step up. So those are very helpful. Some people say acupuncture helps, and it may help some people. I don't know if you want to bring your cat, but yeah, 针灸 as I help some people with their back pain, and some people like massage, and this will help them to relax muscles. So that's also one option. Chiropractor, 我比较是较无 recommend, 除非你go to a very well reputable one. 因为有当时 in a manipulation will cause more problems than the benefits. So my recommendation is to seriously consider not going to a chiropractor because they can cause more problems. 好，咱即马是讲这种的 back pain 是讲没有 red flag。什么 back pain 呢？你就爱有警讯，就可能爱去看你的医生。你若讲麻很麻，或者说 sharp pain 迄种状况，还是讲你休困嘛拢无法度好，还是讲你可能摔倒，还是撞到东西，迄种有trauma的时阵呢，就爱去看医生。无你就是讲有其他的症状，譬如说有排尿困难，或者是很虚弱，那种状况，发烧，那可能就是有别个other causes that it's not just due to muscle spasm. 医生会甲你问足侪问题，所以你可能会使先写起来，讲你什么时候开始痛，你痛什么时候比较痛，是痛在哪里 ，exactly 哪里，有没有到脚里头，吃药有没有药，有没有效，之前有没有手术，有没有其他的病，像糖尿病。So this is all very important for the doctor to help you. So 因为讲does the pain go anywhere? Go down the leg, go down the thigh. 因为 anatomy 的咱会使为你的痛的的部位推理过去，说看看是哪里出了问题。这是一个较 simple 的 diagram， 讲你若是脚痛，可能就是迄个 nerve root 出了问题。大家讲 OK， 那即马医生讲 OK， 阮来做一寡 test。有当时是讲医生讲无恁先去试看卖啊，哩 physical therapist 甲 analgesia， 若有好就免做脚的 test。基本上脚的 test， 是会使看出到底是啥物原因。CT test 爱用 radiation， 伊足紧的，佮大部分的病拢有，伊看 bone 就好的，毋过伊看 soft tissue 无就好，其实伊嘛无足熟的。这个是一个 example， 有一个 bad fracture， 这个一点应该是严重车祸，是讲严重跌倒的人，叫安尼，你会使看讲会脚断去啊。So CT is very good for this diagnosis， 这个嘛是脚有一个 gap， 嘛是骨折。So MRI 是one of the best tests to look at the spine， 伊无 radiation， 毋过你大概去吼，可能就爱倒伫遐做差不多40分钟到1点钟的 test。你若一定有 back pain is very very painful. So bear that in mind. 毋是逐个所在拢足紧就会使做着 MRI， 伊嘛足较贵。MRI 你会使看，逐个拢足较清楚，逐一节是啥物问题所在出问题。So MRI is the preferred choice. 这个吼边仔的 spine 你看拢无，你看这是较正常的，因为这个人的 spine 吼有严重的退化性关节炎，所以呢像一个 Z 的形状，所以就很难看这种这个 MRI。OK， 所以这个图吼是我找着讲这个中文名词要安怎讲，毋过基本上就是你的 disc 有退化，有触无共款的问题。这个 example 呢，就是讲，阮这个是神经伫中焦，边仔呢是一寡 space， 吼是一寡 fluid 来做保护。你看脚根本就啥物位拢无这都是这神经迄个结构变窄了，被压到了，所以呢，这个等人可能在这个叫做 L4 as distribution and nerve 应该是被会有症状会压到。这个人呢，无共款是伫 cervical spine 伫颈椎的所在，这就变做讲，脚 脊椎因为退化变窄啊，所以中间这个spinal cord 会被压到，所以呢这是另外一种 cause。这个人是愈严重的，这规个拢得着，所以他的 treatment 也无共款。OK， 这是 other example， 有一寡 disc 不一定都是只要有小小的 disc， 如果刚刚无得用 ，so probably not the problem。OK， 这我大家拢在看，所以呢我来下 skip， 因为我唔是在 train radiologist here，so you don't have to know。我的 point 就是讲有足侪无共款的 cause， 啊，佫无共款的 level。你的 cause 若是讲会使 be treated with injection, then it's very important to make the right diagnosis. So, injection 有无共款的 injection， 你会使做facet block, epidural, nerve root block。这我无法度 go into too much detail。不过你会使甲你的医生讨论讲，你会使 refer for injection。唔是大一种 back pain 拢会使用 injection 来 treat，but usually that's the next step up before people consider surgery. And these injections can be done by pain specialists or spine radiologists who can do this. So 这是一个 example， 我的同事做的。这个有一个 facet joint， 伊就为只 inject 一寡 steroid。steroid 通常若讲有效 pain relief 会较 last up to 3 months。3 months 了后，你讲要想要安怎？有的人都是 repeat come back， 若讲真正有效 ，they probably found the cause of the pain。有的人讲我唔爱，甲3到5个拢爱去住一次，我要想要爱手术 ，and then that's a different conversation。不过 from what we see is a lot of people get good relief and they will keep come back to get injected. Okay, so these are some other examples of back pain. 这个人，这个所在，刚唔是 radiologist 不要考试好了。这个变得比较扁，有无？这个就是讲可能有骨质疏松症，或是迄个人有摔倒或者是受伤，迄个脊椎变扁扁的，这个会使做 treatment。这 treatment 就是用 injection of cement into the vertebral body，因为伊变到扁扁，伊扁扁会痛。所以呢，可以注射 cement 入来了后，这就不会再继续 collapse。无法度说再把它变成原来的 height 啦，遐悬无法度，不过会使 prevent it from further collapse。So这是一个 treatment option for compression fractures。你会使看讲，这个人做 injection 刷，这个所在看起来较乌有无？这就是讲 cement 伫迄个 vertebral body 内底。这个是无共款的状况，是讲这个人的有癌症，癌症跑到脊椎，脊椎压到spinal cord，这个人嘛可能有 back pain。不过这是较 special 的状况，这甲咱讲的 back pain 无共款。这个人是因为他的血液里头有细菌，细菌跑到神经里头，变做discitis osteomyelitis，这就是一种 infection。这种的 back pain。就是我头拄仔讲遐个 simple 的 back pain。好，我来讲安怎 prevent back pain， 因为呢 prevention 预防胜于治疗嘛，吼。So exercise, simple exercise, stretching is one of the best preventions because 你若有咧 exercise， 你的 muscle 会较 strong， 当你的 muscle 较 strong 的时阵，你就较袂受伤。若要举重的东西呢，要用适当的方法。那不要举，平常没有在举东西，不要今天想说迄个刀我要为脚甲它压去遐，不要做这种事。可能尤其讲较有年岁，有当时较重的物件莫去摕，若拢爱摕有嘢安尼箍落来，这样直直的拿起来。困的时阵嘛真重要，袂使凊彩乱困。迄个枕头的高度嘛爱适当，无有当时脖子会闹着吼，所以爱较细腻咧。站姿嘛是真重要，有的人爸爸妈妈以前拢说站不可以站没有站相，所以就爱徛好，就安尼会使 prevent 后盖的问题。维持健康的体重，因为咱知影 obesity 迄个 weight 会给脊椎比较多的压力，所以呢，它会比较以后会有问题，尤其是长期来讲。 OK， 所以这是我的 summary， 其实我感觉大家人拢知影教的，不过要真正去照迄做嘛是无足简单的。你若真正要 consider surgery 时阵，嘛有足侪无共款的 surgery 会较 consider， 有当时伊会 start with minimally invasive surgery， 做来再 consider fusion laminectomy。我今仔无法度讲遐详细。我直接来感谢阮的 parents， 这是阮弟弟 medical school 毕业的时阵翕的。阮妹妹伊嘛是一个 radiologist， 阮弟弟嘛是 radiologist， 所以阮兜三个拢是 radiologist， 无共科的。阮真感谢呢，有即个机会，直接甲大家 share。我想讲，下面时间留大家有一寡问题，会使甲会开。请大家不要问说把自己的病历讲得太清楚，若讲私底下要按问，我会使斗相共。不过有的问题可能我会使帮忙，我会使尽量。不过不要问太详细的问题。
我一个问题吼，因为你头仔去就讲着较紧，我掠无啥会着。咱的脊椎安尼算来，拢总有几？一条脊椎安怎总有
cervical 有7个 ，thoracic 有12个 ，lumbar 有5个 ，sacral 有4个，所以谁数学比较好
？28。
有人跟我算，所以对。大家刚知影长颈鹿脖子那么长，它脊椎有几个？颈部脊椎有几个脊椎？人有7个，长颈鹿有几个
？7个。
哦，大家那会晓巧啊！长颈鹿嘛7个。好，刚刚有问题。
I have a question, Dr. Wong.
Yeah.
What kind of doctor should you see if you feel a lot of back pain? You're a general practitioner or a specialist?
Yeah, so it's usually best to start with your family doctor because it might be a simple type of back pain and then they can start with that. And they are the best people who know your history and other medical issues. So they will be the best starting point. And then they will decide to refer you to maybe a neurologist, neurosurgeon, pain specialist, orthopedic surgeon. So the reason there are so many different people you can refer to is different hospitals have different spine specialists. So the spine doctors can be a neurosurgeon or an orthopedic surgeon. 所以骨科甲神经外科都有可能拢在做 spine 的头会。So that's why I can't tell you exactly who to see, but your family doctor will know locally who is available and who will be the best to help you. 有当时你的 back pain may need help from a neurologist and not a surgeon. 有当时 maybe they will refer you to a radiologist because they think the injection will be the best way to start.
I have a microphone, sir.
I have one question for you. If we got hurt, should we see the family doctor first, or we should, based on our own judgment, our own experience, to see the personal specialist first, or vice versa, and Chinese medicine or Western medicine?
So depends on what you believe. 不过我有跟你感觉讲，你若真正就痛，看你痛的程度。你若讲 mild back pain, you want to start with traditional medicine, got physical therapist. 你会使 ask your family doctor to refer you, or you can go and find the traditional acupuncture doctor. But if it's really severe, 还是讲足紧的，你无法度做代志的，迄种的 level of pain， 你可能就爱去 emergency， 还是去 urgent care， 因为迄种的 severity and management 是爱马上去处理的。若是讲足久的，拢疼足久的迄种的，你会使揣无共款的treatment看你的 preference 我个人是感觉讲 family doctor would be the best way to start 因为我无 study traditional medicine， 所以我无法度讲伊是伊的 efficacy。不过我知影，we usually 是 patient preference， 看你的 你介意去看这种医生安尼？敢有问题？
You mentioned about sometimes you use a steroid to treat the pain, and when that pain may be effective maybe for 3 months and 4 months, and you can go back. Is there any long-term side effect? If you continue to go back?
So 这种的 steroid 就是讲的 injection 的 steroid， 唔是讲迄种食的 steroid， 有一寡 difference。你若讲用食的 steroid， 迄 side effect 较侪，有一寡人one of the main risk one side effect is actually osteoporosis。所以骨骼疏松症若讲长期吃 steroid， 你若讲 injection， 伊迄 side effect 较无遐侪。So 大部分的人因为 medicine 拢是讲 risk versus benefit， 对一个较好。你若讲 why pain is so bad, the injection helps me a lot. Now I can get back to what I really want to do. Then, okay, side effects. I will accept the side effects.
What kind of side effect you have?
So with steroid injection， 你大概 inject something， the risk 会 infection 啊，你就可能讲有时候就 bad luck 会有 get infection. So that's one of the major risks. Bleeding。虽然因为 injection 的迄个 needle 没有到 spinal cord， 不过迄就是迄个 space 无足大。So one of the possible side effects is you can have a bleed, and the bleed can cause compression of the nerve or the spine. So it's one of the considerations. 我即马讲的遮个 risk 都是足 low 的，不过 yeah I know there's low risk, but there's lawyers in the audience, so we know we have to disclose all the risk reaction like allergy. So where become allergic to the medicine. So these are the main problems that we need to tell the patient before they have the injection. But I know patients who have come back for years and they still want the injection because it works for them and they can get back to their daily activities. Okay, next question.
The question is in general, not really back pain. First is when I get older, my back starts arching, so it doesn't look good. Anybody know this guy is old? Secondly, I'm getting shorter.
So 因为我头拄要讲2个脊椎的中间是那个 disc， 对不对？这个 disc 内底有水分 ，so from our 20s， 的水分越来越少，所以 that's why 咱会愈来愈会。Unfortunately， 拢会叫做啥老辈。So this is normal, but some people it's worse than others. So you want to have enough vitamin D and sun exposure when you are young. 若较年岁较大，可能就爱 take supplement vitamin D 甲 Yeah, 就是迄个有一个 combination tablet. I don't prescribe this, so I don't remember the name. 不过你 take these， 你就 preserve 你的 calcium， 所以你的不只是那个 disc 问题，迄骨头吼较老埋较嫩就 wedge， 这个 wedge 就会变做有一个 curve 伫迄个 thoracic spine。另外一个 prevention 的方法就是讲爱做一寡运动，迄个运动就会 back muscle 会较 strong， 较 strong 呢就会让你的迄个背不会 collapse。我唔是讲明仔载大家拢去走马拉松哦，我是讲慢慢的来常常做 stretch，stretch 完说OK， 我今天做了5分钟的 stretch， 我明天可以做差不多7分钟，慢慢的 graduate， 不是说明天就去打 tennis， 安尼上厉害，所以大家爱it's common sense, but sometimes people 讲常王医生跟大家讲爱开始运动，我就开始我走去拍去，10年无拍，袂使做这种代志。
Dr. Wang, can you be more specific? What kind of exercise is good for the back pain, especially the lumbar 4 and 5 pain?
The thing is， 大家人拢无共款，因为大家人需要的 exercise 嘛无共款。So this is not really my expertise. Especially physical therapists, they are very good at what they do. So they will be able to prescribe with a doctor will go, they need back strengthening exercise, maybe L4, L5 with this problem, they will 因有一套。啊，这我无法度讲，因为这毋是我读的专门。啊，我敢若知影讲，啊 ，they will do a good job， 因为我家己有 experience， 讲我一摆受伤，哦，我听1年，我想讲，哦，这边去看医生都无要紧。我去看 physical therapist， 我做2个月 exercise 我就好啊。我讲 ，why did I not go to a physical therapist earlier? So that's their 专业，我 trust their 专业。So maybe next time you can invite a physical therapist to talk about what's good for your back.
Yes. Sorry, I got the second question.
Okay.
When you first see the, you even though in your lecture you mentioned you are against to see the chiropractor first. However, if people, as our ordinary citizen, our ordinary people, to see either the both chiropractor and physiologist, and they give you a different conflict interpretation regarding your injuries. Okay, what kind of suggestion you would give?
Okay. I would say ask a third opinion, maybe find another doctor. 你知影阮 doctor 的 training 偌久吗 ？So 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, 1 year of internship, 5 years of residency, 4 years of fellowship， 所以考出来都老扣扣啊。So we have a lot of really tested training. I know I'm a doctor, so I'm speaking from a doctor's perspective. But 有当时会看到讲 patients go to have chiropractic manipulation. 如果一 manipulate out， 他们伤到血管，或者是把原来的问题弄得更严重。So that's why I said tread with caution. 不是讲拢无好，不过 there are also risks associated with these types of treatment. 就是讲你所有的 treatment 其实拢有一寡 risk，including chiropractic。可能你有讲哦，我感觉伊安尼摸摸咧，安尼骨头安尼较爽快。甲讲迄个 needle injection， 你讲哦，我无想要去 try that。But it's kind of like sometimes needle has been tested in studies。就这 study 讲1000个人里头有800个人这样会 work。不过你嘛无法度讲那200个人不 work 可能怎么办呢？ So I have no good answer。不过有当时你讲 chiropractic， 因为没有被这么 rigorously tested。a study 所以你讲有效无？有效无？我是感觉讲 ，if it works for you, great. But it's hard for me to say without the scientific evidence some of the treatments whether they work or not. Yeah. So I guess that's a long-winded answer to your question, but maybe ask a third or fourth opinion, and hopefully, you'll get the right one. Maybe one last question? Well, no questions.
Everyone, can you join me in thanking Dr. Wang again for
Hello， 喂，大家好，我是我叶志廷。咱这是 closing ceremony 进前最后一场所以差不多会使食饭啊，大家开心
我就是安尼讲。就去收。
Okay.
OK 大家好，我即马小可介绍咱今仔日最后一个迄个讲员Julie Wu 第一我先讲伊是阮哈佛的学姐so very glad to see you here. 第二伊本来是so you are also a physician, right? 本来伊嘛是医生但是后来伊即马伫做的代志是伊较有出名的代志，是因为写一本册叫《The Third Son》，Saburo， right? That's the name of the 三郎大家知影这个，所以伊这本册算讲是伫美国这个英语文学界内底上早有写到台湾，甚至台湾自治版的事件的这个英语的文学的小说，所以这本册互美国的这个读者真侪知影讲台湾原来有这个自治版这个代志，当然 Julie 毋若看病人做医生写册伊阁唱歌伊阁是 classically trained opera singer. OK， 所以伊多才多艺但是今仔日要讲特别是要讲这个Third Son 这本册。And so, without further ado, let's use a round of applause to welcome Ms. Julie Wu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, team. Thank you very much to the Taiwanese American Conference, West Coast, for inviting me here to speak tonight. It's my pleasure and honor, and I'm truly humbled to be preceded by all these amazing speakers who have done so much for their communities and also for the Taiwanese American communities. I'm somewhat humbled as well to be the only person who is not going to attempt to speak Taiwanese here tonight. I will explain why in a minute. I have two kids, 11 and 16, and I have taught them 2 or 3 phrases in Taiwanese. One of them is "Wa e hiao gong Taiwanwei." The other one is "Wa be hiao gong Taiwanwei." Anyway, so I'm here to talk about The Third Son, which is a coming-of-age novel set in post-World War II Taiwan. It's really a story about overcoming oppression on many levels, on the personal level, on the familial level, on the societal and the political level as well. And I wrote this story in part just to tell a great story, and also to shed a little bit of light on Taiwan's history, which is very poorly understood outside of Taiwan, and actually, in some cases, even within Taiwan. So I'm going to talk tonight about how I came to write this story, and a little bit about how it ties in with today's theme about serving the community. All right, so I grew up in Lincoln, Massachusetts, which is a rural, predominantly white town just near Boston. My parents were both Taiwanese, speaking Taiwanese, and they were very proud of being Taiwanese, but at the same time they believed very strongly in assimilation. So we settled in this town where there were no other Taiwanese families, and my parents spoke Taiwanese to each other, but my father, for example, spoke to me in English, and I always spoke back in English. My brother was born in Taiwan, so he spoke Taiwanese, of course. My sister was about like me. So we had a very typical suburban upbringing in many ways, where I didn't realize I was being sort of a stereotypical Asian American kid, where I studied very hard and I practiced the violin a lot. But I also read a lot, and that was probably my primary love growing up, was reading novels. It just happened to be what I loved to do. But at the same time that I had this typical American suburban experience, I also heard a lot of stories about Taiwan at the dinner table. Oops, where'd it go? Okay, so my parents were born in 1935 and 1936, and that was obviously during the Japanese occupation. So they told us stories about growing up under the Japanese and thinking, in my father's case, that he was actually Japanese, and having Japanese teachers, and they still actually do their arithmetic in Japanese because that's how they learned to do it. They also told us about their confusion when Japan lost the war and withdrew from Taiwan, and there's initial excitement when they heard that the Chinese nationalists were coming to fill the power vacuum, and then their disappointment when it turned out that, again, they were treated as second-class citizens, as they had been under the Japanese. So they told us, about the tensions that arose during that time period, and about how relatives of theirs had disappeared, or neighbors of theirs had their sons disappear, sons who had been in college and were arrested and went to Green Island, although, I don't think they really knew what the name of that was at the time. So those are the things that they told us about, and I noted those, and also noted that they were not corroborated at all by any of the information that I could find about Taiwan in the library where I grew up. So this is a song that probably a lot of you know that my parents used to sing, and my mother used to sing this, and she used to talk about how much it meant to her, and how nobody else in the world would understand what it meant. How many people know this song? Yeah. You want to sing it? Ready? Ready? Ooh, Yahweh, ooh, Yahweh, so my mother used to, I'm a little out of shape since my choir job has taken a break for the summer, but anyway, my mother used to sing this, and I used to think, what is she talking about? What is this morbidly sad song all about? But at the same time, even though what my parents told me was not at all supported by what I read in the library, or in the newspaper accounts that there were, which were few, I did obviously believe them, partly because they were my parents, of course, but partly also because of what I saw myself. So my parents, even though we lived in a town where there were no other Taiwanese people, they did belong to a circle of friends who were Taiwanese, and we did go to some Taiwanese American Association events. And I noticed a couple of things about this. One was that everybody there was Taiwanese speaking, and there was really this division between Taiwanese speaking people from Taiwan and the Chinese speaking people from Taiwan, and also that I noticed when we went to these events, sometimes there would be political speeches, and my father would always take us home at those times because he was afraid that he would be targeted if he was seen in this kind of situation. As was later discovered, his fears were founded in reality, there were spies on American campuses where these events took place, and people did get into trouble. They got blacklisted, and as you know, there are some famous cases of people being harmed. So also in 1977, my family took a trip to Taiwan. So I was 10 years old, and so obviously, you know, not that schooled in the world, but even at that time, I saw the dramatic differences that there were between Taiwanese society and American society. So one of the things that I noticed was the abundance of images of Chiang Kai-shek, the statues everywhere of him, the constant playing of the national anthem with that video clip of Chiang Kai-shek overseeing the military parade that played before every movie and before many of the TV shows as well. And I distinctly remember one time when my brother and sister and I and my mother were in a hotel room by ourselves, and one of these clips of the national anthem came on, and we, being, you know, Americans, we started to joke about it, and my brother started to joke about it as well and say, oh, let's lie down instead of standing up, you know, the way we're supposed to do in the movie theater. And my mother said, shh, you can't say stuff like that here. And we were like, we're in a hotel room, who's gonna hear us here? And she's like, okay, well maybe it's okay in a hotel room, but you can't say stuff like that in Taiwan. You can't say that stuff in the street, or you might get arrested, you might get into trouble. And so that made a big impression on me. You know, I still remember that. And the other thing that was interesting from that trip was that, I don't know if you recall, but at that time, Taiwan was not abiding by the copyright laws. And so it was a very common thing to get pirated versions of books and you know, other published materials there. So one thing that my parents did while we were in Taiwan was to get a pirated copy of the World Book Encyclopedia. So this is our version that I grew up with at home, which was copied, and also, interestingly to me, censored in Taiwan. So we carried this all the way home. I used it as a reference source for many school projects, and I was also very, very interested in the censored parts. So you can see here, there's a stamp where, you know, in the middle of this article about Formosa, it's basically, well, and I can show you what that was later, because what I would do is I would go look up, what I would do is I would see these blank spots, which were so obvious. And this one even is in the middle of a sentence, actually. So what I would do is I would see these, and I would go look up the version in the school library and see what was missing. So basically, it's anything, you know, it was anything that had to do with the fact that Taiwan, you know, that the Republic of China government lost the Civil War, and that's why they retreated. You can read the, I don't know if you can you read the passages there? Yeah. So, you know, and also any reference to the importance of U.S. aid in the economic development of Taiwan, because of course they wanted to take the credit for that. So here's another example. To the left is the pirated version, and to the right is the American uncensored edition with the picture of the Communist Parade. So you can see that the facts in brief, you know, even just the fact that China was communist, it was like not possible for them to admit that. So here again, for the Taiwanese pirated version, the history of China stops after 1949. So this was all kind of interesting to me, and it kind of pointed out several things to me about Taiwan. One was obviously that it didn't have free speech, and another thing was also that you know, you can see in the American version, okay, even in the American uncensored version, that there's no mention of any kind of lack of free speech in Taiwan. There's no mention of any kind of you know, repressive regime there or anything, which also tells you that information coming out of Taiwan to the US was also restricted. Yeah, and where was this, you know, description that my parents told me about of people disappearing, people being killed? You know, none of that is either in the censored version or the uncensored version. So all of this was kind of in the background for me growing up. As I said, I was concentrating on my studies, being always urged as a kid to stay out of politics, you know, to keep my nose to the grindstone, to make money. Of course, I was the third child, so I was, you know, not anything to do with the theme of this book, but I was a spoiled third child as opposed to the protagonist of my book. But by the time, you know, by the time I was growing up, my parents were just happy that I was, you know, going to Harvard at all, much less, you know, worrying about who I was dating and what my, you know, major was going to be, because by that time they were just, you know, they had gone through all these troubles with my older siblings. So, so for them it was a little puzzling that I was majoring in literature. That nobody really knew what to make of that or what I was going to do with it, including me actually. But they, you know, they didn't make me do anything else. And I basically studied literature because I love to read and I love to analyze fiction and sort of find out, you know, what made it tick, what made it work. And that actually has turned out to be very helpful for me to have that background. So it was in we're not there yet. Because in my early career, like 1989 or so. So I went to college, majored in literature, had no idea what I was going to do. At one point, I did think that I wanted to be an opera singer, which my parents thought was, okay, no, literature was one thing. Being an opera singer was like beyond the pale. I mean, I understand why, because I mean, actually being a working, you know, singer and seeing what the pay is, I can certainly agree that it's a very impractical choice of careers. So anyway, but I did at one point. I went to graduate school at Indiana University in voice. My parents were very upset about this, but they still, you know, they were nice to me, and you know, they still supported me, and you know, and I was having dinner at their house one day when I did have this first impulse that really told me what it would be like to write fiction. Because for all these years I'd read fiction, and I thought, well, maybe I would like to be a writer, but I didn't, you know, and I might have tried some kinds of fiction, but it wasn't ever any good, and I didn't really know what to do to fix it. But there was this one day when I was at my parents' house, and my mother was cooking dinner, and I just had this image in my mind of a little boy on the floor of his parents' house in Taiwan. It was a very vivid image, and I felt very strongly what he was feeling, which was very sad. You know, I could smell the mustiness of the house and the whole environment, and I rushed downstairs to type it out on my typewriter because it was that long ago. And it was really then that I realized, you know, this is what writing could be for me. It wasn't just pushing words around on a piece of paper. It was having an image in your mind or a world in your mind and communicating that to other people. So at that point, being young and naive, I decided to write a novel, and also being young and being somewhat still in that, adolescent, self-centered kind of way, I was like, well, I'm going to take that boy and I'm going to put him in the American suburbs and give him a sister who's remarkably like me, and write that as a novel. And so I went to Indiana. I was working on this novel and taking a writing workshop and learning a lot about writing, but I hit some snags while writing. One was that, well, of course, I didn't know what I was doing, but nobody ever knows what they're doing when they're writing a novel. But one was that I found that my book was really boring. So I thought, well, I've got to spice this up, give it some cultural relevance, and I tried to look things up about Taiwan, because this character really was a lot like me, the Taiwanese, family. But there really wasn't anything in the library still about Taiwan. This was 1989. And then, I tried to interview my parents about Taiwan, and they told me a lot of stories. Like, I asked them a simple question, and all these weird and, amazing things came out that I had not anticipated, and that were unfortunately a lot more interesting than the story that I was writing, which didn't really fit in with my worldview. And finally, I felt like I didn't really have the experience that I needed to write the kind of book that I wanted to write. I felt like, here I am, I'm this sheltered American suburban kid, went to Harvard, studying opera. I was like, what am I doing? No, I don't have any world experience. So, I was talking with my writing instructor at the time about, doing an MFA and writing, and I was thinking, if I do that, I'll probably it'll probably kill my interest in writing the way that going to graduate school in voice kind of killed my interest in singing. So I decided instead to go to medical school. So, so my joke is that I got to this scene where somebody had a heart attack, and I was like, I didn't know what that would feel like, what medications they would need, like how long they would be in the hospital, blah blah blah. And most people would, interview somebody, but instead I went to medical school. But really, it was for more reasons than that. I like to think it wasn't just because my parents wanted me to go to medical school. But I did end up going to medical school. And it was indeed an eye-opening experience for me. It was a way for me to take me out of my comfort zone and really learn a lot about people that I would never have come into contact with in my regular life. It was something that I enjoyed, but I found very hard. And all the while I was still trying to write. I was definitely the only person in my medical school class at Columbia to be also taking a fiction workshop at the main campus during my final year. But to me it was really a growing up process, partly also not just learning about other people, but also learning about myself. And by the time that I graduated, I'd done my residency, got married, and was pregnant with my first child, I finally did reach the point where I realized that mom and dad actually were pretty cool, and maybe I should listen to their stories, find out more about them, and try to incorporate what they have learned into my own writing. So I finally, got a tape recorder, and I sat down with my dad, and he said to me, well, where do you want me to begin? When I was a baby? And at first I was like, nah, that's stupid, to start when you were going to come over to the United States. But then I thought, sure. And then he got really quiet, and he said, actually, my childhood was not happy. And so he told me this story about how he'd grown up abused, like emotionally, physically, and never felt like anybody believed in him, never believed in himself, until he met my mother. And she was the one who really got him to believe in himself, to believe that he could do more than just, hang around and repair radios for a living, that he could, pass the exam to get to the United States, that he could make it here. So that was really where I realized this is a great story. It made me obviously, admire my parents a lot. But it also, made me realize, all this time I've been looking for a story, looking for, what, in the movies, in John Campbell, they call the hero's journey. It's sort of a, about heroic transformation. And I was like, here it is, here's my hero's journey. It's my dad, So then I started to write this story. The other thing that happened during this time was not just my own growing up, but it was also the development of events in Taiwan. Because the difference between 1989 and 2000 was huge. There was suddenly a torrent of information available. Suddenly, I was able to find all this information about February 28th and actually tell my parents about it, because when the events of, that time happened in 1949, they were little kids, and because there was no media coverage allowed, because no one was ever allowed to talk about it, they didn't really know what happened really. And so, in some ways, I was informing them about what happened during the February 28th events, and during the period after, when I learned about Green Island, I told them about that too. They were like, oh yeah, that was that place, that must be that place, and they're like, oh, it's called Green Island now. And, so that was an interesting give and take in that situation as well. So this is just a picture of the memorial there that went up in Taiwan, and just how different it was from when my parents were there. I'll talk about this visit that I made later. So I have come to realize, or soon came to realize, that there are a million ways of telling a story. So the question did always come up. My first impulse was always to tell a fictional tale, because that's what I always love to read. However, there was also the impulse to tell my parents' story exactly the way that it was, because you want to preserve that history. So at first, I wrote sort of a fictionalized biography of my parents' story, and there were some problems with this. I got it actually, was able to get an agent at the time for this version of things, but he wasn't able to sell it to a publisher. This was like in 2001 or something. He wasn't able to sell it to a publisher, and he said, you know what, I think that you should change it to a memoir. And I was like, a memoir? And in my mind, a memoir is best if it's like about your own personal transformation. And I can't really say that I went through a huge struggle as a child or anything. So I didn't feel that that was the right approach. So for many years, I did a lot of drafts, and I tried to think about, well, what am I going to do to fix this book? And in the end, I decided to really embrace fiction, because I feel that fiction is a medium where it's like the original virtual reality program. It's something where you can read it, and if it's a well-written story of a certain kind, you can really feel what the people are feeling. you can really kind of be in their shoes. And it's a way of you know, universalizing an experience so that people don't feel like, so that people are interested in undergoing the transformation themselves while they're reading. And it would appeal to people who aren't going to pick up a textbook on Taiwanese history, or people who wouldn't read an article about Taiwanese history. It's going to appeal to people who just want a good story, who want to be moved. So that's kind of why I chose to really embrace fiction. I had to change some of the facts around, or the facts, you know, that as my parents remembered them, and really just make as good a story as I could, while also keeping it historically as accurate as I could. My father always jokes that his life was too boring, so that's why I changed things. But really, it's partly because this is also something that I realized is that in order for you to feel something when you're reading a story, in some ways it has to be an amplified version of real life. I can give it as an example. My father used to tell this story about how he was almost bitten by a poisonous snake. And to us it was really exciting because, you know, he was our dad and he almost died. And so that's really exciting for us. So at first I wrote that into the story, but then in the end, you know, when you write a story, you say something bad almost happened, but it didn't. It's like nobody cares, right? It doesn't move the story along. So in my revision of the story, I changed it so that he gets bitten by the snake. And then that brings about a whole series of events where he has to go and find his cousin, who's a physician, and that, you know, they have to develop their relationship. His cousin gives him a book that's very important to him, and that's kind of an inspiration to him. So it, you know, so it was really just. So my revisions were really just a way of improving the story structure, making the story more universally appealing, making it possible to reach people beyond, like, my own family, or beyond people who are Taiwanese and would read it because it's a Taiwanese book. So my book first came out in 2013, and it did actually get really good reviews and get a pretty wide audience, which was great. I went around and spoke to a lot of book groups, regular American suburban book groups, and it was really interesting because especially people who were my age or older, they were really surprised by the history in the book, and they were saying, well, we thought, you know, we were always taught that Chiang Kai-shek was the good guy, and we were just really shocked by the depiction of the repressiveness of the regime in my book. You know, but there were also, you know, a lot of people who were just curious or just really resonated with the other themes of the book, which were about sort of sibling rivalry, or about, you know, just the main themes about self-actualization, and about how, you know, trying to please your parents way beyond when you know, logically should keep trying to do that. So that's the paper book version, which is for sale today. I'll tell you about that today. So I was also really excited. I've been really excited to talk to Taiwanese American groups and to have it published in Taiwan in Chinese. This is an article that a Taiwanese magazine asked me to write. They asked me to address the young people of Taiwan. At this time, this was still under the nationalist administration, and they asked me to talk to the young, you know, to tell young people, what do you advise, you know, how do you read history, or how do you evaluate history? And so I was just saying, you know, just make sure when you're reading, when you're reading accounts of history, to note whose point of view this is from, like whose points of view are you not hearing, and just to read critically that way. Somebody mentioned Natwa. This is speaking in Natwa. So. Yeah. So it has been also really interesting to tour different parts of the country. In Houston, I was invited to go speak there for a February 28th event, and when I was going down there, the person who invited me said, well, you're going to speak at our community center, and then you're going to go speak at the cultural center. And then I said, okay. And then like a week later, he said, actually, you're going to have a full-length speech at our center, and then you're going to have a 5-minute speech at the Taipei Culture Center. And then when I got to Houston, he said, actually, you're not going to speak at all at the Taipei Cultural Center. Actually, what you're just going to stand up and wave. And it turns out that there was, that was, like I said, still under the nationalist administration, and the people who were at the Taiwanese, the Taiwan Center had never done anything at the Taipei Cultural Council. So but they were thinking, what we'd like to, and we feel like it's ours too. We pay our taxes for it. We want to do something there. So they planned this whole February 28th event there, and they invited me to speak there. But then I guess they were saying, well, if Julie speaks, then we're going to have one of our people speak. And they said, okay, well, how about if Julie speaks for 5 minutes? And they said, well, if Julie speaks for 5 minutes, we're going to have one of our people speak for 5 minutes. And so they said, okay, fine. We don't want one of your people to speak on our February 28th event, so we're just not going to have any speaking at all. So that was interesting. And somewhat awkward, I should say, when I was there. Oh, and then there was also the time when I received an email from a professor in Taiwan who teaches American literature. So she contacted me saying she was coming to the United States, and that she wanted to interview me. So I said, sure. So she came and she interviewed me, and so she came, she met me, and she said, you know what, I'm a mainlander. And I said, okay. And she said, I think that your book is very biased. She said, did you do any research for this book? I said, actually, I did quite a lot of research for this book. And I said, you know what? And she also said some things that seemed to indicate to me that she didn't really understand the theme of the book. So I said, you know what? It just came out in Chinese. Why don't you read it again in Chinese? And I said, and have you ever been to the 228 museums, Taipei, the Green Island Museum? I said, why don't you visit those? And so I left that meeting and I was really upset. My kids even remember this because I came back, I was super upset about this. And then I forgot about it. I think I Googled her and I found out that she was the daughter of a nationalist general. So then last year, was it last year? Yeah, so last year she came, she emailed me again. She said, I'm coming back. I'd like to interview again. I said, okay. So I went there with some misgivings. But then it turned out, she said to me, you know what? I went back and I read your book in Chinese. And it turns out you really did do a lot of research. And she said, you know what, I've been going to, I went to that 228 museum. And I was really shocked. And I realized that my upbringing was very biased. So I've been bringing my friends all my friends to come see it. So it was a very interesting experience, and it was very humbling to, to feel that I was able to, get her to see something from the other side of the world. So I guess I'm running late, but I just want to say this. So now, as far as going forward, now, again, Taiwan has, made its own changes. And as I finish this, as time has gone from that period, from when my book came out to now, I've been doing research for and starting to write a book about the period after, from like late 1970s to early 80s. And as Taiwan has transformed, has become free, where prisoners were sent for decades, and these are some former political prisoners that I interviewed there in 2012, using some of their stories. This is a violin that somebody made out of scraps of wood and gardening tools while he was a prisoner on Green Island. So I just wanted to conclude with this passage from my book. In an oppressed society, there are three main means of survival. There is the farmer's way, plowing on as he has for centuries, his hat shadowing his face. There is my father's method of opportunism. And then there are those who cannot or will not accept things as they are. Like Yoshiko's mother, who came down from the mountains, and the Taoyuan magistrate who was killed. They must either speak up or leave and seek freedom elsewhere. The last option, I was increasingly beginning to feel, would be my way. So this is from the standpoint of the protagonist of this book, whose journey really was about finding the wherewithal to leave this situation he could not accept any longer. My next book, I'm really planning to honor the people who could not accept things as they were, but who stayed to change it, or who tried to change it from outside Taiwan, and who did speak up. And so, partly, learning from that, I've been trying to be more involved in my own community as well. Since 2012, making baby steps, I started a composting nonprofit, trying to also make composting available to lower income people in our community. I have just won my first election as representative for my precinct at town meeting. I've been a delegate to the Massachusetts State Democratic Convention. And so that's kind of where I've been. It takes a little time away from my writing, but I do feel that it's important, and I invite everyone and encourage everyone. I know I'm speaking to the choir here, but to honor Taiwan by learning its history, telling its history as much as you can to people who don't know it, and to speaking out and to being involved in your community. That's about it. So thank you so much for joining us.
We have a very quick time for Q&A. I just want to say that was very simple, but also very moving. And also, you wanted to talk at the end. You want to talk about your book sales.
Yes, I do have some books here to sell. I have some books here at the table and some books in the back, and we went out of those. So they're $20, and either cash or credit card. So thank you.
So
Yeah.
Yes, I will sign the book for you.
It's an excellent book. That's why I invited her.
do we have any questions?
Yeah, just curious. How old is the professor who visited you? Just curious about.
How old was the professor who visited me? I would say she was approximately my age.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Anyone else question? Yes, no?
I can answer other questions while I'm signing books, or if you want to talk to me.
Okay, we'll just have one more at the back.
There's one saying that history are interpreted differently by different people. And so, of course, there's those people with power, those poor people, has no voice, so forth. So how you place your experience, your writing in this process?
Yeah, well, that's, I think there is that saying that history is written by the victors. And I think that's definitely true. And, one of the arguments that I had to the professor when she first visited me, she said, well, this is only from one point of view. And I said, well, the other point of view is very well represented. And I'm trying to give voice to the point of view that has not been well represented. So that was my intent at the time. I think, in my next book, I may, include more points of view, partly because it's more, it was more, I think, complicated in terms of the resistance movement in the 1970s. There were some, there were people from the mainland who were involved later who helped advance things there. So, yeah.
Okay, we'll take one more.
How did you find your book agent?
How did I find my agent? Well, like everybody else, I mean, I did it the old-fashioned way. I just queried by mail. I don't know what they do these days, but probably by email. But yeah, I just wrote letters and sent samples of my book. Yeah.
So let's give Julie another round of applause.